sales tax is not your money at any point. Sales tax is a tax you collect on behalf of the state. You hold it in trust and you pay it back to the state. So you are like a channel, like a funnel. It's not your money. It's never your money. Welcome to the Sunlight Podcast. In this show, we're talking about taxes, money, and careers for self-employed people who have a big vision for changing the world with their work. I'm your host, Hannah Cole, artist, tax pro, and the founder of Sunlight Tax. If you're a creative or soul-centered entrepreneur or wellness practitioner who wants to grow your business sustainably, manage your taxes, and build a stash of fuck you money so you can control your time and have a bigger impact with your work, you are in the right place. Hello. Hi, everybody. I hope you're doing well and you're safe. and even that you have running water and drinking water. I hope you have all of those things. We're still working on that here where I live in Asheville in Western North Carolina. But today I'm going to attempt to return to normal. I have my microphone again today. So just a word for a minute about, kind of where my own life is right now, because obviously it affects my work. And then I want to talk to you about today's subject, which is a normal thing, a thing that comes up for a lot of you and you need help on, which is sales tax versus income tax. So yeah, surely you've heard the news if you listen to this podcast, but I live in Asheville, North Carolina, which is in Western North Carolina, way up in the Blue Ridge Mountains. It is maybe the most beautiful place in the world, and it's this incredible arts community. If you studied art history, you know that Black Mountain College was here with all that cutting edge contemporary art in this incredible mountain setting. And that is actually being, I have an art history degree, and Black Mountain College was actually one of the reasons I picked Asheville to move to when we were feeling the pressure of life with two kids in New York City and knowing that we needed to make a change. So yeah, I really moved to Asheville because of its physical beauty and because of the arts community here. And yeah, that arts community is really wonderful, really vibrant. It's been here for a long time. I think that Black Mountain College, I don't know this history, but I suspect that the reason that Black Mountain College was a thing in this area is because Appalachian culture has always had this incredible artistic culture. I know Appalachia has had its own kind of relationship with the outside world, but one of the things about Appalachia is that it's been traditionally very poor. And for that reason, if you wanted a thing that was really high quality, in general, you would make it yourself. So there is a culture absolutely inherent to this area of making your own things for your house, hooking rugs, turning wood, caning chairs, making candles, knitting sweaters, weaving. There's this beautiful, long-standing craft tradition here that is just gorgeous. I mean, truly gorgeous. And I think this is a moment where Appalachia needs your attention, needs your needs your love here, in the mountains of North Carolina. So I don't know, take a minute, read a little bit about the culture here because it's really beautiful. It's really beautiful. It's a place that it's my chosen home. It's a place that I love so, so much and really feel a part of. And of course, if you've heard the news, you know that Hurricane Helene came and basically wiped out all the artists here, myself included. A lot of the, studio spaces in this area are on the rivers. So the one you've probably heard about in the news is called the River Arts District. As the name implies, all of that is on the French Broad River. My own studio was not in the River Arts District. It was on the Swannanoa River, which is nearby. But both of those rivers flooded dramatically. I mean, so dramatically that they were outside of the ability for any human being here to conceptualize, which is why it hit us so hard. We just didn't We just didn't know that it was possible to get a hurricane after 30 inches of rain. And, the force of water when you're in the mountains is very different from the force of hurricane water when you're on flat ground in Florida. Water just kind of goes to the sides and moves out. When you're in the mountains, it's a funnel. And so all that 30 inches of rain that we got here washed down these beautiful mountains into our rivers and destroyed the artist studios in this area. Not just artists, of course, everybody else who had things on the river. And in some of the smaller towns around here, like Black Mountain, a lot of houses were on rivers. And of course, those people have lost their homes. So, just to be real about what I'm going through right now, I'm facing the largest loss of my life. I lost all of my work, all of my artistic output for 20 years. And everyone in my community is traumatized, myself included. So it's a weird world that we're living in here. My children are still not in school and I still don't have drinking water. So I'm a little bit not quite in the headspace for real life at this moment. But I'm also here, with a business that very luckily still functions, right? I'm so grateful and lucky that you who are listening are very likely not in Nashville and still able to pay attention, listen to my podcast, read my newsletter, maybe join my program Money Bootcamp, or maybe take advantage of some of my free stuff like my beneficial ownership information reporting free class. PS, your deadline for that BOI report, the new mandatory filing for LLCs, it's December 31st of this year. So if you haven't done that yet, you can go to sunlighttax.com/LLC. And it's just a free, like 15, 20-minute mini course. And you can get that done in 10 minutes. And, if you don't do it, if you have an LLC and you don't file this report, there's jail time and up to $10,000 in fines. So you definitely have to do it. There's no exception, or there are exceptions, but essentially you probably don't fit one. Most of us have to do it. I filed mine and I want to help you file yours. So yeah, I've been having this weird little headspace thing where I need to keep my business running. And I'm aware that now that media attention has kind of left this place where I live that is so devastated, that I need to kind of get back to work. And that feels really hard because I'm in trauma brain and my brain feels like mush. And my kids aren't in school and life is so not normal. And frankly, everything feels like I'm walking through molasses. Everything feels difficult. And sometimes I have bouts of sadness so badly, I just want to sleep. That was how I spent Monday. I just tried to sleep the day away. Anyway, that's a little too sad for this right now, but I just wanted to say, like, I'm so grateful for you who are not in this region. I'm so grateful for your attention and thank you. And thank you for your patience with me as I have been just not fully functional, not fully available, and rescheduling the couple of tax workshops. I only had to reschedule 2. Most of them are able to carry on as normal, and I've begun doing those workshops again, and I'm really grateful for the work. Anyway, that's a life update. Now what I want to say to you is let's talk about a tax issue that's important. So, sales tax. I have not done an episode before on sales tax because sales tax is particularly tricky to teach people, especially in a distributed audience like the Sunlight Tax audience. The reason for that is that there are almost 10,000 different sales tax jurisdictions in the United States, and they are not transferable one to the other. So I could tell you rules that might be accurate for New York State or for Buncombe County, North Carolina, and they would not transfer to you listening in Wyoming or California, right? And so it would be easy to listen and think you knew the rules and actually be completely wrong. So this is why it's really not possible to teach anything very specific when it comes to sales tax, but I can teach you about the differences between sales tax and income tax. And that is really important because I see a lot of confusion just about taxes in general. We tend to think of all taxes as the same thing sometimes, and they're not. They're not. These distinctions actually make a big difference, and they can at least help you not feel so confused. So, with that said, let me just do a rundown today of the difference between income tax and sales tax to help you kind of understand why these are two pretty different universes and how to handle them. Okay. So, first and foremost, my specialty, my expertise, my license is in income tax. The IRS is the tax collector for income tax, not sales tax. So my license comes from the IRS. Income tax is my jam. That's my expertise. And that's what I'm generally teaching you about in my program and in this podcast. Sales tax is what we call a SALT tax. SALT stands for state and local tax. Okay. So sales tax is administered by your state, right? And it can have multiple layers to it. So sales tax generally starts at the state level, and then layered onto the state level might be additional taxes for your county and your municipality. So this is true where I live in Asheville, North Carolina. There's North Carolina sales tax, but Buncombe County, where I live, has its own sales tax that's additional, that gets added on to the North Carolina baseline tax. So sales tax can get complicated in a hurry, and it matters where you're located. Okay. Some terminology differences between income tax and sales tax. In income tax, we say that you earn money and you pay your taxes, okay? Now, I want you to listen to the difference with sales tax. In sales tax, we use different language for a really good reason. You collect sales tax and you remit it back to the state. And the reason we use those words is sales tax is not your money at any point. Sales tax is a tax you collect on behalf of the state. You hold it in trust and you pay it back to the state. So you are like a channel, like a funnel. It's not your money. It's never your money. And I hope this gives you a little alert, a little red flag in your brain, because the very important thing to know about sales tax, because it is never your money, because it is the state's money at all times, mishandling it is mishandling state funds. States are not very generous or happy with you if you do anything wrong about sales tax because it's their money and they want their money, right? Makes sense, right? Versus income tax, where you earn the money and you owe the tax on money you've earned. That actually is your money that you pay in tax when we're talking about income tax. Okay. So that little terminology difference, it might seem fussy, it might seem picky, it might be like, why is taxes so complicated, right? But there's a real difference philosophically behind that language, and I want that language to serve to alert you, oh, right, I am just the vehicle for sales tax. It's not mine in the first place. I need to be very careful with how I handle it, okay? To that end, in general, the states, I believe in most states, don't quote me on this, I believe that in most states it is illegal to collect sales tax until you're registered to do so. Now, some states will actually really come down on you for this. New York State is one of them. But collecting sales tax is something you need permission to do in the first place. Again, because you are holding yourself out as someone who can do this official state function and who is properly going to give it back to the state. So in general, sales tax is something you need to get ready for and you need to do properly. I mean, of course, also income tax as well. But sales tax, you have to, before you ever even collect it, you have to register with your state to collect it. That's important. Okay. The other thing about how sales tax works, which is sort of interesting, is that generally in that process of registration, you need to give them your EIN. So it's really easy and free to get an EIN. If you don't plan to form an LLC, then you can just get your own EIN for free in like 2 minutes flat on the IRS website. That is easy to do. Do not fall for online scams. There are many, if you Google for it and you get those sponsored links, you're going to find a lot of places that want to charge you money for an EIN. And whatever they're charging, it's a scam because you can just get one for free and it's no effort. It's not hard at all. I would just say that you want to be careful about getting too many EINs. It becomes a real headache administratively for you. If you plan to form an LLC, the act of forming an LLC, which again is a thing you do at the state level, not federal, when you form an LLC, you will get an EIN through that process. So I would say there's one little kind of pause point here where if you know you're going to form an LLC, but you haven't yet, that process is going to give you a new EIN. So you might want to hold off on your sales tax registration until you do your LLC filing so that you don't end up with two EINs. Okay. And listen, I have two EINs because I screwed that particular one up. And it's not a huge deal. I mean, I just essentially abandoned the first one and I only used the second one, the official one with my LLC. So it's not the end of the world if you make that mistake. I made that mistake, but I'm telling you that you don't need it and it can cause some messes. Yet, have I had some quite unpleasant correspondence with the North Carolina Department of Revenue because I used the wrong EIN once? Yes. Yep, that happened to me and it was not fun. It was about 2 years to resolve. So if you're just wondering like how much of a pain in the ass it is if you do that, it's a pretty big pain in the ass. Okay, moving on. So when you register to collect sales tax, in general, your state will assign you a filing frequency. Most state, now, of course, I want you to understand anytime I'm talking about sales tax, I'm not giving any individual advice or information. You have to check with your state. It's very state and local based, and the rules vary, okay? I'm trying to kind of keep this high level and about the commonalities to help you understand where you need to go. But most states, you're going to give some kind of information about your expected sales volume or your current sales volume. And the reason that that's important to the state is your state is going to assign you a filing frequency. Okay. When you collect and remit sales tax, you will be given basically like a schedule, right, of how frequently you need to file and remit sales taxes. Okay. The options, for the record, are annual filing. That's for somebody with a very low volume of sales. Quarterly filing. If you're curious, Sunlight Tax is a quarterly sales tax filer. I do it 4 times a year. And then there's monthly. And monthly, if you're a monthly sales tax filer, you're doing a really heavy volume and you've got quite a lot of sales tax that you owe. Effectively, the slicing is about how much you owe to the state and how frequently they want you to be paying it. Okay. So probably if you're listening, the chances are, this is not a guarantee. Chances are pretty good you're going to be either an annual or a quarterly filer. But if you're really doing a lot of business, and congrats if that's you, you might get assigned a monthly filing frequency. So no big deal. What you want to do is just know what your frequency is. You want to put that on your calendar. Put those dates on recurring alarm so that you never miss a deadline. And you will need to both file and remit your sales tax. Now, I do not know what this process looks like in all 50 states. I just don't. I know what it looks like in the state where I remit sales tax, which is North Carolina. I'm not going to tell you I love doing it. I think it's a little annoying, a little difficult, but more or less I've gotten used to doing it. I do a calculation, I run a report. Luckily, this is one of the benefits of running everything through a single system in my business. I don't have stray things here and there that I might owe sales tax for. Everything is documented for me because I have one point of sale. And so I run a report and I look at every sale that's coming through from someone who's based in North Carolina. That's a rule that applies to me. That's not a rule that might apply to you. So you need to be careful with that. But basically, you want to run a report and see what you sold in that filing period that you owe the sales tax for. And then you're going to, get on your state Department of Revenue website, file the report, and remit the money. Okay, that's essentially what the process looks like. So I hope that feels helpful for you to just understand kind of what sales tax can look like. And yeah, it's a little tricky. It's definitely quite different from income tax. So I think if you're going to have any takeaway from this episode, what I want you to take away is sales tax filing and remitting is quite a different process than income tax. These are very separate, very different systems They're not related to each other. And so you want to be very clear which one you're talking about when you ask your questions or when you seek out your answers online or by consulting with a person like myself, because they're not the same thing at all. And the answers might be quite different for you. Okay. So, with that said, I have a little bit of further reading for you if you want to have just a really awesome resource for sales tax. Sales tax is a place where I recommend software. So now I do my sales tax reporting manually because I have a business where I operate nationally and most of my sales are not actually where I live. That's usually pretty different for most people. Your sales are going to be more based where you live. And so this can vary. When you compare sort of what I owe for income tax, which is a big number, versus what I owe in sales tax, which is a much smaller number. For me, these are two very different amounts that I am paying or remitting. They might be more similar to you. So a resource that I really like is a tax software, sales tax software called TaxJar. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't have any relationship with them. I make no affiliate money, but I like them. I've had conversations with their team before, and at the time I did this research, TaxJar was the least expensive of all the tax softwares, sales tax softwares out there. There are others. I know QuickBooks will do it, although honestly, I don't trust it. Avalara is a very good, very robust sales tax software, but it's quite expensive. I mean, that's an enterprise level software. TaxJar is built for people more like you and me, kind of operating on the single member LLC or self-employed level. So I like it a lot, and it's relatively cheap. Certainly, if you have a lot of sales tax, especially if you have multi-state, I do think it is worth it to use software, and that's one that I think is good. But I also will tell you that their blog is very good. They have a lookup tool, and you can go onto this TaxJar blog and look up your state and your county and your municipality, and you can find kind of where you have nexus. So nexus, I should have mentioned this in the body of the episode here, but nexus is kind of the key factor in sales tax. What you're trying to determine, the factor that determines whether you owe sales tax or not, is about if you have this thing called nexus. Nexus is like presence, business presence, right? And I also want to give you a little warning that the nexus rules are different in every state, in every county, in every one of those 10,000 sales tax jurisdictions, which is why you need something like a computer that can track them all. That's why I think software is so good. But nexus is also something that has been shifting. So in 2018, there was a Supreme Court case. We call it Wayfair, right? So Wayfair, the furniture company, was doing a lot of internet selling. They had no physical presence in, I believe the state was North Dakota. They had no physical presence there. And at the time, the sales tax rules said, you don't owe any sales tax here because you don't have a factory, a warehouse, you don't have employees here in North Dakota, but you're making, millions of dollars of sales to North Dakota homes, right? So the state sued Wayfair for sales tax. And essentially, what they found was that internet did not constitute nexus for the state of North Dakota. But the consequences of this Wayfair Supreme Court ruling are that almost every state went back to the legislature and rewrote its sales tax laws. So in 2018, most states changed their sales tax rules and they created some kind of nexus around internet sales. So prior to 2018, this really did not exist. And after 2018, it does exist, and you got to watch the rules because they've been changing. So that's another thing to understand, is that you no longer need a warehouse or an employee or a physical presence in a state. If you're doing sales there, you may owe sales tax there. So you need to check your individual rules every time with sales tax. There's no relying on what you think you know or what your friend in another state does. Okay, so I really hope that that is a helpful episode for you today. I hope that that resource leaves you in a good position with a place to start to find out if you have Nexus and then go to your state and register to collect sales tax. I hope that helped you. And I just want to say to all of you, go drink a glass of water out of your tap. Think of us here who can't do that right now. And I will put a link in my show notes to a couple of the funds here in Asheville that are collecting money for grants for the arts community and the small business community, which are in pretty dire straits right now. And definitely, I know the media is not here anymore, but definitely a lot of places here, a lot of individual artists here could definitely use your help. So thank you so much for listening. I hope this serves you well. If you have any friends with sales tax questions, please send this episode to them. And thanks for listening. See you next time. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review. It really helps, and share it with a friend. I'm so grateful. This podcast is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links we reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.